If there's anything that narcissists are really good at, it's putting us on guilt trips. In today's video, I'm going to go over exactly why it is that narcissists tend to lean into putting guilt trips on people so much in order to get their way. I'm going to go over some examples of how they do this so that you can look out for these techniques. And also I'm going to go over ways that you can kind of get your mind out of these traps that they put you in when they put you on these guilt trips. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. I think it's first useful to understand why it is that narcissists use the guilt trip so much. This is like their go-to manipulation tactic, and it can be really, really effective. Part of the reason it's so effective is that they really believe in it most of the time when they're using it. So these guilt trips that they're putting you on, they usually think that they're justified in using these guilt trips. And there are a lot of reasons for this that directly tie to the features of narcissism. So what are these features of narcissism? Firstly, narcissists are extremely entitled. They feel absolutely entitled to anything they want from you. So any of your time, effort, resources, they feel like you owe that all to them. So if you're spending time on yourself or you're doing something for your own good that takes away from something that they could have benefited from, they feel robbed. This is a really important part of narcissism, is this pathological entitlement that they're really never going to get their heads out of. If they feel absolutely entitled to anything you could do for them, of course they're going to put you on a guilt trip when they feel like you've robbed them by using your time and resources and energy for something other than what could have benefited them. Another feature of narcissism that contributes to guilt trips is their lack of empathy. So if you don't give them everything that you could have possibly ever given them, they don't really care how that affects you. They don't really care that that would have drained you, or it would have taken away from something important to you, or it just would have worn you out, or it would have caused more abuse, or it would have hurt you somehow. They don't care how it affects you. If they're taking everything that they can take from you and it hurts you, that's not a reason for them to stop taking those things. And that's not a reason for them to stop feeling entitled to everything you have. So their lack of empathy is a reason that they don't stop and think, oh, maybe I shouldn't put this person on a guilt trip because they didn't give me everything they have. Maybe that's not fair to this person. Maybe putting this person on a guilt trip might hurt them somehow. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Their lack of empathy, this never happens because they don't have empathy for people that they feel have robbed them. And narcissists also feel superior to everybody. They feel like they should come first and that everything that they want should take precedence over anything anybody else could ever want. So if their needs aren't fulfilled, which their needs will never be fulfilled, then they feel like it's wrong for you to have filled any of your own needs, especially when they're still sitting there feeling like they don't have everything they want. So this is another reason that a narcissist will feel justified in putting you on a guilt trip. And narcissists also have an extreme lack of accountability and responsibility for themselves. So a narcissist does not feel responsible to take care of their own emotional needs, their own emotional problems. They feel like they have a right to dump all of their emotional baggage onto you. It's your responsibility to take care of their emotional problems. It's your responsibility to enable them. It's your responsibility to regulate their emotions for them and to take that weight onto yourself. So a narcissist's extreme lack of accountability and responsibility equals you're responsible for them. And so how dare you not spend all of your time and energy taking care of their endless emotional needs? That's your job. So that's the basic rundown on why narcissists gravitate so quickly to putting other people on guilt trips. There are so many extremely prominent features of narcissism, the features that make a narcissist, that very naturally lead into them putting guilt trips on people or feeling very justified in putting a guilt trip on somebody. And how do they do this? What are the techniques that they use that make these guilt trips so powerful and so effective? One of the most effective things that they do when they put people on guilt trips is they are really good at blending the reasonable with the unreasonable and kind of presenting things out of context, leaving things out and making their requests sound like something that you should be doing for them by presenting it in a way that isn't honest. For example, maybe you have a really tumultuous relationship with your sister. Maybe your sister is cruel, abusive, tells lies about you, steals your stuff, goes on smear campaigns, just an extremely difficult person that it's impossible to have a healthy relationship with. And maybe you've gotten to the point where you've cut the relationship off. And out of context, a narcissist like this could say something simple like, "You won't visit your own sister?" or "You won't talk to your own sister?" And this phrase by itself out of context sounds like a reasonable question. It makes you sound like the unreasonable person. Wow, you would cut a relationship off with your own sister? But they blend the reasonable with the unreasonable by leaving out the important parts, by leaving out the fact that your sister has tormented you your whole life, has emotionally abused you, and is impossible to get along with. And that none of that is your fault, and that none of that is anything you can do anything about. But yet you're being the one guilt tripped. You're being the one being asked a reasonable question of, "You won't visit your own sister?" Another example of this might be something like, "You can't lend me $20. I mean, this sounds reasonable. Maybe somebody ran out of gasoline and they don't have any money and they can't get to work the next day because they're broke and whatever, and maybe this person has constantly leaned on you to get them out of these jams that they keep getting themselves into. Maybe they keep spending their last $20 on things that they really don't need. Maybe they went out the night before and spent their $20 on something else, knowing that if they just come to you and say, "Hey, I don't have any money and I need gas and I need $20, that's the context that's missing when you finally say, "No, figure it out yourself," or "Stop spending your money on things that you don't really need." Then they can come back with something like, "Wow, you can't even lend me $20? You don't have $20 you can help me out with?" This question by itself out of context sounds reasonable. It sounds reasonable to ask somebody that's close to you for $20 when you're in a jam and you really need $20 until you include more context and more information. And narcissists are really good at blocking out the context and just focusing on the one idea of, "Wow, you can't give me $20. Really? How selfish are you?" Or, "You can't do me this one favor." Just making an incident that is related to maybe years of patterns of behavior, maybe years of habits of you being taken advantage of, taking it out of context and isolating it into this one little event of, "Wow, you can't give me $20, or you can't give me 5 minutes of your time, or you can't do me this one favor," making you seem like a completely selfish, unreasonable person by blending what sounds reasonable with something that actually is quite unreasonable. Another technique they use to put guilt trips on people that's closely related to this is just by gaslighting, by redirecting your attention, by minimizing your past experiences or denying them outright, by rewriting history. So when they ask you for that $20 and you say something like, "I gave you $20 last week and you spent $20 last night at whatever," they might just say something like, "No, I didn't," or, "Oh, so you're keeping tabs on me now," or, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I needed to account for every penny I spend in order for you to help me out." Or another example of this might be, maybe this sister that you don't want to visit has been abusive to you in the past and has never taken accountability or acknowledged it in any way. And so you're being asked, "Wow, you won't visit your own sister?" And when you try to explain, "Well, yeah, because she did this to me and she told lies to the family about me and she stole my money and whatever, all these things that she's done." And the sister, or maybe another family member that supports the sister, might say something like, wow, that was a long time ago. You're still holding a grudge over that? Or you're still upset about that? Or when are you gonna let that go? Or how petty are you? Or that's a reason that you're gonna cut off a family member? Just really minimizing the harm that has been done to you in the past. This could really be done in any kind of toxic family where abuse has occurred within the family and the majority of the family members are trying to cover it up, minimize it, pretend it never happened, and really put the blame and the vilification on the victims of the abuse, expecting the victims to participate in the covering up of it and the fantasy that none of it ever happened. So making the victims the bad guy and putting the blame on the victims for perpetuating the truth of the things that have happened. Saying something to somebody like, wow, you're still upset about that, or when are you gonna let it go, might sound reasonable in certain contexts. So this is another example of presenting things out of context, because when you add the context of there was never an acknowledgement, there was never an apology, and especially this behavior or these problems I'm having continue anytime I try to re-engage, suddenly what might seem reasonable or what might sound reasonable coming from a manipulative narcissist is not at all. When narcissists get into these guilt trips, you have no rights and your experiences are completely invalidated and they don't matter. Your attempts to protect yourself are treated as if you are robbing other people of what you owe them. Your pain is unreasonable and your experiences are either blown out of proportion or they never even happened. So I said I was going to go over some specific examples of this, and last week on Facebook, there was this group that I was reading some posts in, and this really had nothing to do with my channel at all, but this person that I don't know posted a scenario where her dad, who she says has been very abusive and unreasonable pretty much her whole life, is now wanting her to come visit for Christmas. And she said that she has recently cut off contact with him and that her life has been going really great since she cut off contact. She's been feeling a lot better, a lot more empowered, and a lot healthier. But she said, if I tell him, no, I'm not going to visit you for Christmas, or if I just refuse to go, she said, I'm afraid that I'm going to be accused of not fostering the relationship. So when I read this, it really struck a chord with me, and it was part of the inspiration for this whole video, actually. And I wrote a little response to her saying, you are going to be blamed for not fostering the relationship, but that doesn't mean that it's your fault. It's not your fault just because you're being blamed. And this really is a good example of the types of guilt trips that narcissists will put you on. So taking her story at face value, her dad has been the perpetrator. He's been abusive. He's been cruel to her. He's made her life chaotic and difficult. And she's cut the relationship off in order to protect herself. And now she's being blamed, or she's afraid of being blamed if she doesn't go along with what he wants, if she doesn't visit him for Christmas. And this is an example of something that out of context sounds reasonable. You won't visit your dad for Christmas? It's Christmas. That sounds reasonable, but in context of he's made her life a living hell and he's abused her and made her life chaotic, and she's been doing a lot better since she cut off contact, it seems more reasonable, in my opinion, that she not go and visit. And I think it's really common in a scenario like this to fall for some kind of illusion that if she were to give in and go visit him for Christmas, that these criticisms and this blame shifting and these guilt trips would end. And they won't. That's just an illusion. If she goes to visit him for Christmas, it's not actually going to pacify or satisfy anything. She's still going to be blamed for everything. The abuse is just going to escalate, and she'll probably just be punished for the period of time that she cut off contact with him. So in my opinion, it's quite likely that things will actually get worse if she goes. And yet if she goes, she's going out of fear that if she doesn't go, things will get worse for her. And this is how guilt trips from narcissists can really keep us trapped in this hamster wheel of trying to satisfy the narcissist so that things don't get worse, when in reality, the more we try to satisfy a narcissist, the worse things actually get. A few more examples of guilt trips that narcissists will put us on will be in scenarios where we're thinking of ourselves. Like maybe in the scenario where a narcissist is always coming to us for money, maybe we need the money for ourselves. Maybe we're running low on cash for the month and we need to keep it in order to pay our bills on time. And the narcissist will make us feel guilty for thinking of ourselves because they need our money. So if we're keeping something that we could give to them, even though it's going to cause problems for us, we're the ones that are being selfish if we're thinking of ourselves in a scenario like that. And these guilt trips for thinking of ourselves can occur in a situation where maybe we live with a narcissist and we just take some time to read or to watch a television show that we like, or to go exercise, or maybe something bigger, like maybe we want to go back to school and so we're taking some time doing our schoolwork. Narcissists will see any amount of time that's being taken up that's not directly benefiting them as selfish, as you're robbing them of something that they could be benefiting from just for yourself. You're just thinking of yourself. I mean, maybe you bought the lavender scented cleaner when they like the lemon scented cleaner, even though you're the one cleaning everything. Well, how selfish are you? Don't you know that they prefer this smell over that smell? Anytime you choose yourself over putting more time and energy into trying to make the narcissist happy, these are opportunities for a narcissist to put you on a guilt trip because they really do feel like they're being robbed. And I think another more insidious way that narcissists can put us on guilt trips and even train us to put ourselves on guilt trips is by making us believe that we're not trying hard enough, or continually telling us that we're not trying hard enough. Because no matter how hard we try, we're never going to be able to satisfy the needs of a narcissist. Nothing we do will ever be enough. But in day-to-day life, let's say the narcissist is really fixated on the way that you clean the house or the way you keep things organized in the house. And you're trying to make them happy, but as a human being, there's going to be moments where you're maybe going to cut corners, or you're going to take a break, or maybe you're going to leave something undone because you're tired, or you'd rather just read a book or do something for yourself. As a human being, you really can't give it your all 24/7. You're going to cut corners. You're going to take breaks. There are going to be these little moments that a narcissist can point to and say, you're not trying hard enough. You could have done a little bit more, because really, you really always could have done a little bit more, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much effort you put into. And they can really train you into buying into this mentality, into focusing on these moments where you let off a little bit on the gas and you gave yourself a break. Focusing on that and saying, see, you're lazy. See, you don't try. See, you don't care about me. And leaving you on these perpetual guilt trips of never measuring up and never being good enough. Because no matter how hard you try, like I said, it will never be enough for a narcissist. And they're always going to project their perpetual emptiness onto you and make you feel like their emptiness and their endless need and their perpetual dissatisfaction is because of that moment that you took a little break, because of that moment that you took some time for yourself, or you skipped something, or you just thought about yourself for a minute. And this leads into another example of these guilt trips can come from not volunteering for more abuse. Just like that girl that was being guilt tripped into visiting her dad for Christmas. If she shows up at her dad's house for Christmas, she's volunteering for more abuse. History has told her very clearly that re-engaging with this relationship is going to result in more abuse. And yet she is guilt tripped into continually doing this. It's completely unreasonable and absurd for a narcissist to expect people to continue to talk to them, to visit them for Christmas, to give them money, to spend any time or energy on them, because they have a complete lack of empathy for the pain they cause people, for how draining they are, for how much they hurt people, and they have zero appreciation for anything you do. So if that girl does go and visit her dad for Christmas, she's not gonna get a thank you or any kind of appreciation for that. He's not gonna think, oh wow, she still cares about me. I'm so glad she's giving me another chance. No, he's gonna think, good. Who does she think she is trying to cut me off like that? She better come visit me for Christmas. There's just pure entitlement, lack of empathy, superiority complex, and a feeling that everybody in the world owes them more than they could ever give them. And I know I'm going off on a rant here, but I wanted to end this video with explanations of why you shouldn't buy into these guilt trips and why you shouldn't allow yourself to feel guilty, even though narcissists are so good at making you feel obligated to do things that are totally unreasonable. The guilt trip of a narcissist is the product of a narcissist's delusional idea of what you owe them. No one could ever give a narcissist enough to make them feel satisfied. No one could ever give a narcissist enough to make them feel grateful. And like I said earlier, it is an illusion that if you give in this one time, if you give them this $20 just this one more time, if you do them this one more favor, that they're finally going to be appreciative, or this is going to finally be enough to pacify them. They're going to stop taking advantage of you. They're going to stop lying about you or smearing you to family members. And this is finally going to get better and be easier to deal with. Like this girl that is afraid that if she doesn't visit her dad for Christmas, that she's going to be blamed for not fostering the relationship. Any kind of scenario like this, it's an illusion that there's going to be some kind of reward or some kind of relief if we give in and do what the narcissist wants, if we fall for the guilt trip. And this is what we really need to understand in order to make it easier for us to resist falling for these guilt trips. To understand that every guilt trip you fall for, there will be one more right behind it. There is no end to the entitlement that a narcissist feels to anything and everything you could ever offer them. The only way to end these guilt trips is to stop giving in to what they are demanding from you, is to stop buying into the idea that you do owe them all the things that they think that you do, to stop listening and to stop letting them make you afraid of the consequences of not giving in, because giving in to the guilt trips that they put you on will have worse consequences than telling them no in the long run. When you stop the cycle of these guilt trips, and you are the only one that can stop the cycle of these guilt trips, you will be put on more guilt trips. You will be blamed. You will be smeared. You will be punished for it. But in the long run, this is really the only way to end this cycle of abuse, this cycle of continually taking more from you than you could ever give. Being able to accept the reality that there is no end to these guilt trips until you put an end to it, being able to accept that you are going to be blamed for this, that you are going to be made to be the bad guy, is a really important part of healing and moving on from people that will never be able to take responsibility for themselves, will never be able to look in the mirror and accept that they are the ones that have caused the problems in these relationships, that they are unreasonable, that their expectations are unreasonable, that they have caused pain in the lives of other people, and that the consequence of that is losing people that have given them things or done things for them that they have relied on. When we can accept that a narcissist is going to project their pain and frustration onto us, when we stop enabling their behavior and we stop giving more of ourselves than we have, that is when we can begin to rebuild our lives with a more realistic idea of what it is that we owe to the people in our lives and what it is that we really owe to ourselves. If you're looking for a way to support my channel and you've been considering professional therapy, BetterHelp is offering 10% off of your first month of service if you sign up using the link below in my description. And if you sign up using the link below in my description, I will get a one-time commission, so that'll help me out and it'll help you out as well if that's something that you've been considering. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.